I'd like to call the special committee of the whole meeting to order. Let the record reflect it is Tuesday, December 1st, 2020 at 6:34 p.m. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to Governor Pritzker's Disaster Proclamation and Public Act 101-0640, which amends requirements of the Open Meetings Act due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Pursuant to the same, the village board finds that it would be impractical to conduct an in-person meeting with all members present. I would ask at this time the elected officials confirm that they can hear one another. Mayor Vanderberg. Absent. Clerk Therian.
Present.
Trustee Berg.
I hear you.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Brennan.
Present.
Trustee Galante.
I can hear you.
Trustee Mueller.
I can hear you.
I can hear myself. All the materials for this meeting are available on the village's website, and we recommend the members of the public follow the agenda as posted. After members have spoken, I will forward public comment as follows. Once I, the chair, have a list of all public commenters, I will call on each person present at the meeting and forward them 6 minutes for their comment. The public was also provided the opportunity to submit a request until noon today by email to the clerk's office at tinleypark.org or by placing their written request in the Dropbox at Village Hall to participate publicly via a live telephone call at the relevant portion of the public meeting. And the public was provided the opportunity to submit written comments until noon today by emailing their public comments to Laura at the clerk's office at tinleypark.org or by placing their written comment in the Dropbox at Village Hall. Written comments will not be read aloud. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Berg.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Brennan.
Here.
Trustee Galante.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Present?
Trustee Mueller.
Here.
President Vandenberg.
Thank you. Item number 2. Consider approval of the minutes of the special meeting of the whole held on November 17th, 2020.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Bill. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Number 3, discuss Class K1 liquor license request for the Whistle Events and Catering. Who will be taking that one?
I'll take that, Trustee Bach.
Thank you.
So this item is to discuss the request for a K1 liquor license for the Whistle Events and Catering located next to the Whistle at 7537 West 159th Street. With limited events and banquet space in the village currently, the Whistle is looking to open this event space to have high-quality service to local businesses and residents, with the goal of being a premier catering and event space on the south side of Chicago. The Whistle is going to work with the Community Development Department to ensure proper zoning and parking requirements are met. We recall this, has been brought up before, and I think that was one of the topics that we wanted to address. So the Whistle is going to work through that. And then the other piece of this discussion is just a minor code amendment to the current liquor license, or the K1 liquor license. Currently, it says that the holder of the license must cater all banquets and events. More so a technicality. If there is any food that's gonna be in this space, it technically will be coming from the Whistle next door in most cases. So we're just looking to make that minor code amendment as well. I have Mark Mikesell and Bobby Sanfilippo on the line with the Whistle if there's any questions.
Okay, before we start, Kimberly, do you have anything you want to add to this? because it will be going through the community, it'll be going through the planning. Is there anything you want to add?
You're right. We'd be taking their case back. If you recall, it was stalled, so we have to bring back their banquet use because we made a text amendment to the zoning code, which their zoning district requires the special use. We'd have to go back because we did not finalize that process.
Okay. Thanks, Kimberly. Sorry about that. Kristen, did I hear Jake's on the line?
Yes, he responded present.
Okay. Hey, Jake, is there anything before we go around that you want to add to it, or no?
No, I think I heard Hannah say that one of the holdups in the previous conversation regarding this particular request was a parking study, of which I believe has been provided by via the applicants. So it's my understanding that they
Hold on one second, Jake.
They still there, Hannah?
You should be.
Just acting up.
I think you went one click too many. You could use it as a hockey puck.
Is the phone on?
We lost them. Sorry about that, guys.
It's okay. No biggie.
Technology.
Hey, Dave, should we, while she gets everyone on the phone, should we just skip the 4? Could we just go to 4, or you want to wait? Okay. Is everyone okay with that if we just go to 4?
Yeah.
You, who?
Please enter your access code followed by the pound.
Oh, everybody
It'll be
got knocked
live.
off?
No, everyone's still on. It's just.
Okay.
May as well just wait.
To enable
May
audio
as well just
control,
wait.
please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign. If you do not have a PIN, just press pound or hash.
Hello, is everybody there?
I'd say we're back now, maybe. I don't know.
What was
Yeah,
that?
is that Laura?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
That's
I don't know where exactly you got cut off at. I don't know if you heard any of my explanation.
Jake, you got cut off at they did a parking study.
Yeah, that'd be the only thing I add. I think, this has been, obviously been around for a number of months now. Some of the feedback, I think I heard Hannah mention earlier, the feedback was that they needed to get a parking study done, of which it appears they provided that. I don't see any concerns there. I think it provides ample parking for what the requirements are. I don't see any issues with any of the, out of the liquor commissioner's office, I don't have any issues with the applicants, obviously being owners and license holders in town already. I don't have any particular issues with their business practice or model.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah, I'll just add that is Bobby Sanfilippo still on there?
Both of them are, yeah.
Yeah, so I, over the weekend, I stopped in there and I ran into Bobby, Sanfilippo was in there. And he said that when they have events like that, their employees, which I think they would have 20, up to 25 employees, that they will not be parking on site the night of events. That's correct, right, Hannah? Did they, okay. So with that, I'm fine with it now because it was just too busy. So start around, Trustee Brady, you want to go?
Oh, it's fine by me. Would they be parking like across the street at the Marquette Bank or to the neighborhood? Is that going to be a problem?
Mark or Bobby, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, this is Bobby. I spoke with George Moncada, president of Marquette Bank. He said that we can use his space for employee parking, after hours, which would be, 5, 6 o'clock. That's when most of our events would be, when we would have.
That'd be
Maybe
perfect.
problems with parking at that time. But no, the employees will be parking across the street at the Marquette Bank, directly across from the Whistle Events Catering.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Trustee Bill Brennan?
No, as long as the parking issue is squared away, that was the biggest concern.
Trustee Michael Mueller?
Same for me.
Trustee Diane Galante?
Yeah, same, if as long as the parking is not a non-issue, that was my concern too.
Trustee Cindy Berg?
No comment.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Someone want to second it?
I'll second it.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Berg.
Abstain.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes. So we're making a motion to do what?
It will be on the next village board
Okay.
meeting for final approval.
Motion carries. Item number 4, the Boulevard. Kimberly, you want to take that one?
Sure, thank you. We also have on the line Ed Nemick, who is the individual the village has been negotiating with in regards to getting a new restaurant in what is now the Boulevard at Central Station, the Village of Tinley's new mixed-use building there on South Street. The first floor of that Phase 1 building will be comprised of retail space, and we've been actively pursuing some opportunities for a restaurant to locate here. And Ed Nemick and his group, they are considering seriously the corner piece there, the prime location of that building where the rounded architecture is, to locate a brand-new type of upscale restaurant. They don't have a name at this point, but essentially, they're looking to build out that space and spend about approximately $1.9 million to make it an upscale restaurant for our community. It is a proposed Italian-inspired tapas-style menu, which means it's shareable small plates, along with a full bar, outdoor dining. It has a great sidewalk area for a great outdoor dining experience, so we hope that that will be a great attraction for this place. And the thing that has evolved as we've been in negotiations is the fact that COVID has changed a lot of how restaurants are rethinking how they need to design their business concepts. And through this, we had some revisions, and that now increased the square footage that originally Ed was looking at, and he did that in order to have a carry-out to-go space adjacent to the main operations of the restaurant. So that gives them this opportunity to cater to commuters that might be coming in from Chicago. They can go on an app, order their food, grab it right when they get off the train, and be on their way home. So that's a new concept that is evolved, and I think it'll be a great concept for the area. In addition, they are going to be having a second phase that would include about 140 seats for a banquet area. The benefits to the community essentially are that we're looking to create a destination place in downtown and create some synergy with the new demographics that we hope to be attracting with the new mixed-use building there. It will serve as an anchor for that building and hopefully drum up visitors and attract people that are already coming to the area, and will be estimated at bringing around 70 jobs. In addition, that additional sales tax to the village would be the benefits of this proposal. The restaurant group has requested $300,000 in assistance, of which $230,000 of that request is upfront to support the build-out, and then the remaining $70,000 being paid through sales tax sharing over 3 years based on what their projections are that they provided us. The village would share part of the 1% state of sales tax collected, and that the village's home rule tax is not part of this incentive. I have the breakdown of the incentive as it is in 2 parts. As we had mentioned, the $230,000 will be distributed from the capital project fund with the intention of the reimbursement from the new Bremen TIF district for all TIF eligible costs. And then the second component is the sales tax, which will be paid from new sales tax generated from the restaurant. After that village receives the sales tax, the village would keep the sales tax generated from the first $1 million, which is approximately $10,000. And then the village would then share the next $20,000 in sales tax collected with the restaurant group. All sales tax generated over $3 million in taxable sales is split evenly between the village and the restaurant group. The sharing agreement would then expire when the restaurant group receives $70,000 or 5 years, whichever occurs first. And this is all based on the restaurant group's projections that they have provided us. Again, we have been talking in quite some time, and COVID happened during all of this, so obviously some things have changed as we've been going through this, but ideally this is a restaurant that we think will be a catalyst for our downtown, and Ed can speak on his behalf. He is a restaurant owner with years of experience, and I'd like an opportunity for him to introduce himself to the group and kind of elaborate a little bit more on the concept and their plans.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Nemec. I've been in the restaurant business since the 70s, and I grew up in the business, and that's all I've ever done. This restaurant, I believe, is going to be probably, of all the restaurants that I've been a part of, done, managed, partially owned, whatever it has been, it's certainly going to be the jewel of the restaurants I've done. There's so much support from other people that want to be involved, and I'm talking about, you won't know this name off the top of your head, but John Coletta, he's written cookbooks, but he also is a partner in the Gibson's Restaurant Group and Cortino's, and he's excited about the project, and he wants to even consult on it and help on it and be a part of it. We had been looking for a second location for a restaurant, and obviously Tinley Park is too close to our initial restaurant out in Frankfurt. And so when Bob and Joe Rizza approached me years ago when they first started working on the project, I was excited about it, but of course, it's taken a long time to get it all together. So we've been kind of hanging on to this for a long time. The restaurant is going to be like Kimberly said, about small plates, Italian. We think that people are just kind of over big, huge bowls of pastas and everything else. I mean, there's a place for everything, but so this is going to be a very modern, hip restaurant that certainly we want to appeal to the millennials, but to just about everyone who loves Italian food. It's got a big open kitchen, like a restaurant in Chicago called the Royster. And so the whole kitchen is on display for all of our guests to see. We think that's going to be the focal point. When the COVID crisis hit us, it really made us, take a turn in how we thought things should be, because we always knew that carryout would be a part of every Italian restaurant, which it is. Italian restaurants with carryouts are doing, very, very well. So we went back and looked at the space and said, you know what, we need more space because I want a dedicated carryout so people didn't have to come into the restaurant. Now, certainly by the time we open, hopefully a lot of COVID will be behind us, and I think that's what we're all banking on. But to make this, somewhat pandemic-proof to a degree, this carryout will be open from, breakfast to dinner. It will have, our menu available. It will have packaged food ready to go for commuters, and they're going to develop curbside parking outside so people can literally pull up in front of the front door and get their meals, the pizza, their pastas, whatever it might be. And then I see this as a big thing for those commuters. They can order on their way in or on their way out. I think it's also going to be a big plus for the building, the community, the building we're in, and the community around us. But I also see when Harmony Square finally comes on board that this is going to be a great spot for families and individuals to pick up meals to go, to carry out to the square, or stop in afterwards. So I see it as the perfect positioning for, a real fun upscale restaurant. It's not going to be stuffy. It's going to be very casual, but it's going to be something like the South Side, the suburbs have never seen, and that's always been our goal in developing aren't gonna compare to the guy next door or across the street. So we're really excited about what's happening in Tinley, and obviously this is a huge investment, and, you know, for Tinley Park to offer some incentive here, you know, is just a big part of us getting there, getting to the final, you know, product. Like Kimberly said, we're gonna have some great outdoor seating. The inside is being designed by 555 International, which is an incredibly big restaurant design firm that did Girl and the Goat and did all the Boca restaurants. And so, you know, we're really using the best talent we can find to do this restaurant. And there's really no corners we're interested in cutting. We just want this to be a flagship restaurant, and we want it to be, you know, like a jewel in Tinley Park. So we're really excited about this. It's going to employ a lot of people, and I think it'll be great for the community. It'll just up the game of the restaurant scene in Tinley Park, and I think it's going to offer, you know, a completely different dining experience that exists anywhere in the south suburbs. So we're excited, and I'm happy that you all are taking the time to hear us out on this and consider us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Start around the, Trustee Berg, do you want to lead us?
Sure, I'll start off. Thank you, Mr. Nemec. I just don't know why we're giving $5,000 solely to like restaurants that are in Tinley Park. These people are not in Tinley Park, and they want $300,000.
370.
270.
370.
It's, you know, it doesn't make any sense to me that the other restaurants would be struggling so, and we would go ahead and hand out this to this individual corporation, it sounds like. If you can hire Girl and Goat and Royster decorators, I'm sure you can afford to, you know, build out your own restaurant. But my biggest concern is the developers. I don't see a development agreement in here. But it's my understanding that they're in default. They are supposed to provide a restaurant for us. We are not supposed to be providing any money to these developers at this point. So I don't know, where's the development agreement at? Maybe it's missing from my packet. The last one I had says this is their responsibility.
So, Trustee Berg, just to clarify, so if you're talking about the development agreement for South Street, that was approved a few years ago, and actually part of the agreement said that the developer could come to the village and seek additional incentives for and I think it's described as a tablecloth type restaurant. So that's really what we're
Yes, it was.
to do. So this would obviously, what we're doing tonight is presenting the concept, which I've talked to all of you about individually. This would obviously go through a development agreement next, but the purpose tonight was to discuss publicly the concept.
So maybe we could provide that for the development agreement. The one I have, it does not, what's the last one, was it 2018?
Yeah.
Could you guys send that to us all, maybe?
Sure.
So that we can all see what we're up against here? Thank you so much.
Kimberly,
Go ahead, Diane.
I heard them talk about outside seating. During the last discussion on this, I was concerned because I didn't believe there was much outside seating space. So how much is there going to be outside seating? Does
The
that change?
corner unit does have a pretty wide sidewalk, and I don't have a site plan, but I'd be happy to share that with the group. It does allow them, the restaurant actually has sidewalk available to them that is not the public sidewalk to be walking on, so, and with it being in the corner, it wraps around, you know,
Okay,
a
yeah,
significant amount of space.
I'd like to see it, because that was one disappointment I had, is that when we looked at it before, I didn't believe there was much
Sure.
outdoor seating at all. And I guess what for me on this, I love the idea of this entire boulevard building. It's beautiful. The restaurant sounds fabulous. But I also believe we gave a significant incentive to the developer. And that developer should fill his tenant space with his incentives. Because if everybody comes and we have to give incentives to the building to be built, and then everybody who comes in, it would be overwhelming to us. And I agree, we have so many struggling businesses right now in our own village. I would rather, put our energy into supporting them over, giving out an incentive. I don't think they need an incentive. It sounds fabulous. It sounds like it is gonna be a hit. And the other issue I have is upfront money. I will always, it'd be a negative thing for me to give out upfront money. I don't believe we've done it since we've been aboard, that I know of. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is something new now, and I'd rather stick with sharing after the fact with them. And, you know, just especially right now, in the middle of a pandemic, this is, I don't believe something we should be moving forward with. Mhm.
Before I ask what I was going to, Dave, can you correct me if I'm wrong? From the beginning of this whole conversation, that I believe just Trustee Berg, myself, Mayor Vanderberg, and Kristen are from the original negotiations. You guys, the staff, when you negotiated with them, would have given them more of an incentive, but instead, you gave them less. Because you guys told the developer, you will negotiate individually with the restaurants and everything on the first floor, and you're not giving them any money for that. Is that correct? Could you fill me?
Yeah, so the history of this is the developer, you know, in some of the early negotiations for the agreement, requested a separate, a tax incentive for this first floor restaurant. And so we said, staff, that, you know, we would definitely be willing to consider an incentive for a first-class restaurant like the one being proposed, but that we would rather individually have a development agreement so we could basically say yes or no, depending on the restaurant. And everything that Mr. Nemec has proposed is exactly what staff was envisioning when we got a project like this. And, you know, it's, nowadays, I will tell you, without naming names, there's a number of restaurants in this South Suburban area that have gone to other communities that have gotten significant money, actually a lot more than what they're seeking up front. And for, I think from staff's perspective, this is important because we're trying to set a new direction for downtown. And by bringing a business like this in, that's going to help not only South Street, but all the businesses around it. And yeah, it's correct, this board has not had upfront incentives for restaurant. But this is, if you remember right, banging gavels, incentive was structured where there was money at occupancy and money later. So, you know, I think all of those, that history behind it, this was really the staff recommendation that this be separated out from the agreement so we could exactly do what we're doing now, which is address a specific restaurant or a specific request.
And this was for you to have a set number with the developer, and then you and staff would have control of any restaurants or anyone else that came in moving forward, so that they didn't have money and you didn't know where it was going, you would have total control of it.
And to make sure it was the type of restaurant that we really wanted too, so, yep.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Mr.
question?
Can I finish? Mr. Nemec, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
The question I had, I was unaware it wasn't going to be a Dancing Marlin. It's going to be a Dancing Marlin restaurant group.
Yeah, we were way too close to do another Dancing Marlin. That just didn't make sense. And the one would just take from the other.
Sure. My question to you is about the menu. This tapa-style menu with shareable small plates. And
Yes.
when you Google it, and you get the menu, it looks more like, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like more like appetizer snacks, you know, more of a smaller scale type menu than a full menu, or is the tapas for your stuff that's for the, for your to-go menu more?
I think it's just
Yeah,
smaller
let me
plates.
just kind of, you know, explain that a little bit more. I mean, I think just like the Dancing Marlin, you know, where we took, you know, certain items that, you know, people love, but, you know, didn't want a big bowl of or a big plate of, you know, we've just scaled those down. So instead of somebody coming into a restaurant, and I'm just gonna use something that everybody knows, you know, if you went into an Italian restaurant and ordered fettuccine Alfredo, you know, you get this giant bowl of food that you can't eat that you put in your fridge and you have it for days. Rather than do that, you know, I'm not gonna say we're gonna do a chicken Alfredo, because that's pretty common, but if we did chicken Alfredo, you know, it'd be enough for, you know, a few people to share, or maybe for one person, and then move on to another, I don't wanna say appetizer, but another small plate. But on our menu at the current restaurant, and just like this restaurant, you'll have small plates of things for people that just don't want, you know, the big plate of something. But there will also be, you know, main entrees that people can have.
Okay.
Like, for example, out of Tuscany, they do a version of a porterhouse steak, you know, 1.5 inch thick or 2 inches thick, and that's grilled over open fire, and then it's sliced up and then put back on the bone and served that to the table. That's going to be a big sharing piece. It's a huge piece of meat, but the concept here is that your table doesn't, you know, one person doesn't have to order this. It's for the table to share. So think more about sharing rather than small little appetizer plates, because that's not really what we're going after. We're going to go after real, true Italian food that's made in front of everybody. You know, pastas that are made. They're just not going to be huge portions unless you want a big portion. You came in with your buddy and the two of you are sitting, maybe you have no interest in sharing anything, then get the bigger bowl of something. And that's how we're going to play it. So it's a little bit of both.
All right.
It just gives people an opportunity to not have to eat huge plates of food if they don't want.
Thank you.
They just want to share.
It just, yeah, with the tapas, it was a little misleading, and I don't want to go there with Bill and have him have to have a smaller menu, that's all.
Yeah, and at some point I can send everybody, you know, one of our test menus, and you can actually see what's going on. But what we've learned, you know, at our restaurant in the last 7.5 years is that people really don't want to eat the way they used to. They want to change it up a little bit, but they want to try a lot of food. They want to be able to sample things instead of just saying, I'm stuck with that one dish, let's go home. You know, we want people to be able to taste all these magnificent flavors and be able to sample lots of food. And that's really what we're going on. People spend no less at our restaurant because they're smaller plates. In fact, they probably spend more because they want to try more. And they don't feel guilty taking 3 bites out of something and then passing it to their, you know, their guest table, their kids, or their spouse. So it works out really well.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Nemick. Trustee Mueller?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just 2 questions from me. The carry-out to-go area, have you guys tried that out before? And can you expand a little bit? I understand the commuter portion of it, but have you had any experience with that?
Well, certainly, you know, in my past, you know, we've done lots of carry-out. Obviously, every restaurant around, unless you're a super high-end restaurant that was not equipped to do that, you know, since March, all of us have had to go into the carry-out business, whether we wanted to or not. You know, it just was a necessity because of the pandemic. So we've learned how to do this really, really well. And we don't have, at the current restaurant, we don't have a dedicated, you know, spot. Whereas this restaurant, when I went back to the developer and said, you know what, I think this is going to be key in moving forward and just kind of make us somewhat pandemic-proof to a degree, because I didn't want people to have to get out of their cars, find a parking space, walk into the restaurant while people are dining, you know, to go and pick up their food. And you've probably seen this in restaurants where you got to go find out, where do I pick my food, who's the cashier, who do I pay? And so I wanted to eliminate all that. So you'll be able to access carry-out, you know, obviously from its own set of doors, you know, facing the train station. But in there, you know, you'll be able to get, you know, any of our food to go pre-ordered, package things in the morning, you know, croissants and sandwiches that we'll do to take with you or take home with you. You know, bottles of wine, olive oil, fresh baked bread. You know, we want this to be like almost like a little mini Italian store to go. and you'll be able to get this incredibly crazy pizza that we're working on. That that you'll be able to get through that. The developer's putting some parking right there in front of there, so we can make this as simple as what. If you want to come in and walk up, you can. If you want to, just have us bring it out to your car, we'll do that. But literally to your car from the front door is only going to be 20 feet. So we want to make this as convenient as possible. I know our restaurant now, if it had something like this, would be just over the top for us. We don't, and most restaurants don't. And so, unless you were built as a carry-out pizza place or something like that. So we're fortunate that we could take some more space, but obviously that's costing us more. But, everything we do, and, the comment earlier about, the expensive architects, this is not about, spending crazy money. This is about getting this place to look, like no other restaurant. I mean, you've all been in restaurants where you go into it and it looks like if you pulled the Italian pictures off the wall, you could put Greek pictures up there, you could put Mexican pictures up there. There's absolutely no atmosphere to the place. It's painted walls and, a bare floor. And I want this place to be, not only stand out, but I want it to be a destination for people. I want people to talk about this restaurant. We have people that come from Naperville in Chicago to our restaurant, and I'm humbled by that. And I want that to be the same case, with the restaurant in downtown Tinley. I don't want it to just be Tinley folks. I want it to be, all the suburbs around, and I want it to be the talk, of the restaurant community. So, unfortunately, you have to spend money to do things right. And, I wish we weren't going to spend, close to $2 million. I wish I could say, listen, we're going to get in there for, $250,000. We'd be open right now. But, that's, in this climate, forget about COVID, restaurant people, foodies and diners know that they have every choice imaginable to go somewhere. And so you just can't, say, I put good food on a plate and expect people to come. They want the circuses, they want the, the nice tables and the visuals and the nice lighting and, beautiful bathrooms, it drives people, a nice place to have an event, and that's what we want to offer to people. Our event space that we're working on the one side, you'll be able to sit on the outside patio with your group in the summertime, should you want to go out and take your glass of wine and enjoy the weather. So, we're trying to build in all these things, the UV system for, the ventilation. Hopefully we don't need it, but, I want people to walk into that restaurant and have a feel of comfort, of safety. And that's going to be a big thing when people come out for the first, 6 months, a year, who knows when. You want people to know that you're doing right for them and that, okay, COVID's fine us a little bit, but we want to make sure, this is safe. So we're putting in sanitation stations all over. We're building the restaurant knowing what we're just going through or maybe going to come out of. And that's all costing a lot of money. And but I don't think there's any way to do a restaurant at this stage of the game. It's got to be done right, or there really is no reason to do this. Too much competition out there.
And then my other question was, were you planning on having a similar concept to your tap wine like you have at the Dancing Marlin currently?
Yes. Yep. I mean, we will still, like we do now at the restaurant, it started as pure wines on tap in our tap cocktails. Now we've added, bottles of wine.
Right.
We have to have that.
Yeah.
But I will say this,
More competition.
since we've added bottles of wine, still our number one beverage product, alcohol, is wines on tap. Because people know that it's as fresh as can be. You can have, you don't have to commit to a bottle. We'll have that for those people who want maybe a better bottle of wine. But we're going to expand that whole service, the taps there. We're also, where we do cocktails on tap at the restaurant, we're also going to do a line of Italian things on tap. Custom-made limoncellos on tap. Make it really, really unique and fresh that I think is really going to surprise people.
Perfect.
So a lot going into that.
Perfect. So, yeah, I like the way that this is kind of structured. I think we're using the TIF funds correctly there at the beginning. And then it's very incentive-based, where the restaurant does well, the village does well, and everybody gets their monies back. So I'm good with this.
Cool. Trustee Brennan?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this project. I think it's going to be a great addition to downtown Tinley. I am hesitant about the upfront money, but I think this is something that we've been working on for so long, and staff's done a good job of really putting these incentives together. The one question I do have, though, is it says in the packet, it says 70,000 paid through sales tax over 3 years, and then it says 5 years at the bottom. I hope it's the 3 years, correct?
Based on their projections, we have them being paid out by 3 years, but it's a 5-year agreement because, I mean, we're
Okay.
going off of projections, but, it's a 5-year agreement.
Okay.
Did I speak to that right, Andrew?
So when we were building this incentive, where you're looking at there is we took their projections, and if they hit each one of their projections year 1 through 3, we would pay out that $70,000 of incentive over that 3-year period. Again, because of the climate and giving them a little bit of longer runway, the deal is good through 5 years. So if they underperform, they get less money, but they're not out that money in the long run. If they underperform for 4 or 5 years, then the deal would expire, and whatever they get is what they get. So that's the difference, is if they hit all their projections to the penny, within 3 years we'll be done, and there will be no more incentive, and we go our separate ways. If they miss their projections by, a couple $100,000 or something, they don't lose that money. It just takes them maybe later into year 3 or into year 4 to potentially get that.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Trustee Brady?
Oh, wait, hang on, one more. I would like to add just one more thing. I agree with Dave's point. I mean, I think that, we're really giving these, this group half of what some of these other suburbs are given, and this is going to be on the same type of scale restaurant. So I think that we do have to take some sort of, it is a risk to do this, but, I think that if we really want to have a nice restaurant in that space, I think this is something we need to do, so. There you go.
Okay. Well, most of my questions have been answered, or questions that have been asked already, but I was wondering, you talked about a banquet facility? Is that right? Okay. I'm thinking way ahead about noise, okay? As far as the tenants, we have a problem already in town with tenants and noise and everything else. So I was wondering what things can be done to protect the tenants from a loud DJ, or back in the days of a band or something, in a banquet facility.
Well, if I can chime in on that, I mean, we don't plan on any kind of entertainment. If there was any entertainment, it would be, a piano or something early. I mean, that's just not what we do. This is not a late night hangout. This is none of that. I mean, it's for dining, and music has never even entered the equation at all.
Well, I was wondering about if,
I don't think
sorry,
that's part of it.
I was just wondering if it was going to be a banquet facility, that you may have a wedding there, or shower, or birthday party, or bar mitzvah. Or...
This banquet room that we're working on originally is part of the restaurant, and that's, maybe 40 seats. And, we have a room at our place now that can do 60, 55, and, if there's anything that's ever been there in 7 years, all of the events that we've done, it's been maybe a piano player or something like that. I mean, unless you get into a banquet room that does become, 150, seats where, potentially somebody was gonna get married and have a wedding or something, then maybe you'd have to have a band or something, but, that's not in any immediate plans at all. So we don't have that kind of space to do that at that size, so, again, the music is, for us, it's right now just purely background. It's piped in music, and I could see maybe on a special occasion, a big day at New Year's Eve, where maybe you bring in, a combo or something, but, even that, we know that we don't need it at our restaurant. We've done things like do little pianos and stuff like that, and we really don't have any apartments around us, but, it's also self-contained that, we haven't really had to worry about that. But there's not gonna be any stage or anything like that in there, no DJ booth, none of that. That's just not, you know, the direction we're going in. We're all about food and the experience and service, so.
Okay, thank you.
Diane, you wanted to ask Dave a question?
Well, I was curious about, I want to make sure that 35 seats, is that including the outside seating, or is that? And then I just want to mention the
I'm
banquet,
sorry, is
So-
that a question to me?
or Kimberly?
I believe it's a 35-seat restaurant. It's not including the outdoor dining.
Okay.
I think he thought there's potential to have additional, correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, maybe 70 seats outside, or capacity of 70.
Yeah, I think in the latest plans, I don't think we were at 70 outside, because it's just along the one side
Right.
there, and around the corner, but I thought it was only maybe 40 something,
Okay.
you know? I was waiting to see a final plan on that.
Yeah, we haven't finalized that.
Okay. That it would be in addition to those 35 seats?
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I was curious about is, you said the incentives on this building. Does that mean that every unit we're going to have to, there's going to be an incentive for? Is that what you were saying? Each of the commercial properties is how you guys built this originally with the last group?
So, and again, we will send the agreement out again to the board, but there's a specific section in the agreement that references and sales tax incentives for I forget the word, but I think a fine dining or an upscale restaurant. So
Mhm.
that's what specifically.
Okay, just for the restaurant?
in the agreement.
Because that was the only other issue, was that this was going to be a nighttime because of the parking issue. Is that, it sounds like now if they're going to have, they'll be open during the day? So is that,
Yeah.
is that going to be an issue with parking?
I mean, it's our downtown. This development is providing a lot more on-street parking than was currently there. There is a parking lot behind the building that can be utilized. We have the train station that, you know, can be, I believe after 10 a.m., you know, people can go use there. So we don't foresee, I mean, obviously there's, you know, supply and demand, but we think people will be able to find parking in the area. So. And again, you know, Ubers, you know, people are getting lifts now, that if you know you're going into town. I know some of our restaurants downtown that I've spoken to said many of their clientele do come using other means of transportation too, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Nemec, so if this is correct, you're going to be spending roughly $1.9 million, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that, you know, we could do it for a little bit less, but right now, all the numbers that are coming in, you know, are high. Everything's high right now. So, that's as high as we're gonna go.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for during these times, for you to be willing to invest in Tinley, in our downtown. The 35,
Well, we appreciate, go ahead.
the 35 seats for the inside, is that what your model is no matter what? Or if, once COVID disappears, will that change? Will that
No,
increase?
That 35 seats refers to we have a dining area off to the side that could be used for potential private events, a rehearsal dinner, you know, birthday party, anniversary, you know, that's just that. You know, the rest of the dining, you know, by the time we open, you know, hopefully that's not an issue, but, you know, I think we were up to 160, 175 seats in there, plus that 35. So I think that, you know, there, even in the heat of COVID, if we had to pull out, you know, tables and give more spacing, you know, we certainly would be, you know, maybe in the 100 range, you know, I mean, in the worst case scenario. And the bar, you know, depending on how that all pans out, you know, and it's, when I say bar, there's part of the bar that's purely for people who want to wait for a table and have, you know, a glass of wine before dinner. But then there's a counter, and I'll call it a bar just so for all understanding's sake that it looks like a bar. But those are going to be reserved seats, so people can actually sit around this area where chefs, myself, will be plating food and putting the food out, and, so those are reserved seats. So if you take those into consideration, that's another, 25, 30 seats that we're gonna be able to put people around this area. Now, if you space everybody out and put 2 seats and then, space them 6 feet apart, certainly that number goes down. But, by the time we get this open, I'm really hoping that things are under control and we don't have to do that. So,
Great. Thank you, Mr.
but
Nemec.
that's how it would be today if we had to open.
Thank you very much. Last thing, Dave, do you know how much did Maple Tree get in incentives? You or Pat Conley or Andrew, do you know?
580?
I can find out the exact number.
I would just, if you knew off the top of your head.
Significantly more than what we're talking about.
Okay.
What's
perfect.
Maple Tree? What is he referring to?
Maple Tree and.
Very well-known restaurant that's been around a very long time.
Okay,
Where is it?
Homewood?
Oh, that one, that's one that burned down, they
Yeah,
relocated that?
Asian place.
538,000.
Yeah, but our incentive-wise is different because the developers have over $7 million on the line from Tinley Park. It's not like we are just, doing business with an entity that's not received this kind of money already from us. So I understand what you're saying about Maple Tree Inn, but this is not a different circumstance.
Yeah, and my only point, this was the way the deal with the developers was always structured, was gonna be, they were gonna receive their money in the development agreement, and that, this white tablecloth restaurant was gonna be separate.
What about my idea of them building out for the restaurateur? Was that ever discussed?
They've indicated that they are contributing somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 towards the build-out. That's between them two. I don't know if they finalized that yet, but the developer is pitching in funds to help with the build-out.
Thank you, Kimberly.
all right, anyone like to make a motion for Mr. Nemec
I'll make that motion.
What's the motion for?
for the incentive agreement?
To move
on
it to the
agenda?
board meeting for tonight or for when?
No, we will draft the development agreement and bring that back to the board.
Right, based on
Thank
the
you.
terms.
Do we have a second?
I think we all need to look that over.
Yeah,
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Can you, Madam Clerk, call the roll, please?
Trustee Berg.
I'm not sure what I'm voting on here.
to
To move forward with the drafting of the
offer them.
agreement, that'll come back.
I'll say no.
Trustee Berg, nay. Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
No.
Trustee Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Nemec.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a good night. Item 5, the ELFI reclass 8. Did everyone read their packet? Anyone have any questions for Kimberly on this?
I do have one.
Sure, go ahead.
Just sorry, the residential in Panduit, what's going on with that? I know there's
Sure.
issue with the fence on that side.
Yeah, last we spoke, are you just talking about in general, what's going
Yeah,
on with the development?
something coming up forth in the pipeline or what's happening?
Yeah, they still are in negotiations with the original home builder, but, there's a lot of things that have slowed down, but, right now, Panduit is looking at other options too. It's
Okay,
nothing progressive, but.
so it won't be a problem if we go ahead. It's a great,
We're cognizant of that, residential can develop here, so we're pushing for this site to get cleaned up as much as possible. And the other property will have the benefit of also providing additional buffering when they come forward.
and these are prefab homes they're building in there, right? Is that my understanding?
The developer we were talking to at the, who did submit a formal application is D.R. Horton. So it's not prefab, but they're, big builders, so they have a model and they kind of, replicate it through the development.
Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? I will make a motion. I have a second.
Second?
Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 6. Van, do you want to take that? The 80th Avenue intergovernmental agreement and related property sales and purchases.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you again. what I can see of you. Try to get through this as quick as we can here. So tonight, in front of you, you have your intergovernmental agreement from Will County for the proposed improvement for 80th Avenue from south of 191st Street to north of 183rd Street. The improvement actually starts at Greenway Boulevard at the south and goes just to south of the railroad tracks. It's going to be a reconstruction of the roadway and the bridges and widening of the pavement, and also includes a 10-foot multi-use path that starts at Greenway Boulevard and ends at Timber Drive at the north. So there are some improvement costs that are tied to the village. Okay, so these are improvements that are being done that would be the village's responsibility to pay. And you can see there's landscape, which has to do with some stamped crossings. We've got the roadway improvements at 191st, which the village's portion would just be the south leg. We've got the multi-use path we talked about. We're replacing some water main. We're installing some roadway lighting. We've got traffic signal again at that intersection at 191st. And so that's, our portion is that south leg. We have the bridge aesthetics across the I-80 bridge. And then the village's portion of the construction engineering gives us a total of $7.284 million for village improvements involved with the whole project, okay? So you can see in red, there's a shown Will County credit of $5.6 million. So I'll come back to that and explain how we got to that number. But several months ago, the county approached Village, asked if they were interested in a jurisdictional transfer of 80th from just the north side of 191st to the south side of 183rd. And the village said, you know, we're interested, but, you know, what's the deal? You know, we don't know what the deal is, let's talk. County was going to make an offer to the village. We've got these upfront costs that, you know, are associated with the village, but there's the benefit to the village with a jurisdictional transfer of you now have control over that road. You can do whatever improvements you want to in the future, right? So there's a benefit there. I know there's been some talk with Panduit for their access onto 80th. You'll have more flexibility, obviously, if you have control over that roadway compared to having to get approvals from the county or get it permitted, right? So, you know, there's that advantage in itself of the jurisdictional transfer. But, of course, we have to look at it financially and see, does it make sense for the village to do this? So besides these upfront costs, if the village was to take the jurisdictional transfer, now you got to maintain these roadways and these bridges. And that leads us to this slide, which there's a lot of data on here, but it's the life cycle cost of the project, meaning the roadway, we look at having a 50-year lifespan, and you're going to have to maintain that roadway through 50 years. There's costs associated with that. So you've got the maintenance operations, resurfacing and crack sealing, and then at 50 years, you have to replace it. And then we've got the bridge over I-80. We have the bridge over the Union Drainage Ditch. Those have lifespans of 100 years. And again, you got maintenance operations and repairs that you have to do to keep the bridge so that it has a life of 100 years. And then you have a replacement cost at the end. So what we do is county originally made an offer, which is shown on the left side, was their original offer. They were going to pay for 100% of the lighting and the intersection improvements at 191st, the village's portion. So by doing this, it was going to save the village, and I can't read that. Hang on one. Yeah. Sorry about that, you guys.
All my cheaters?
Yeah. 3133, okay. If you compare that potential savings versus the life cycle cost that we had calculated on the screen before, the $5.6 million, you can see that the delta, the difference there, the village would be down 2.47 million, right? So the deal didn't make sense to us with their first offer. We did look at it and say, okay, if you take the I-80 bridge out, the village would be up, but the county really wasn't interested in that. They wanted to get rid of the bridge, and when I talk about the bridge, I'm talking about the deck, just the driving surface, not the substructure. So we went back and forth through an iteration and kept negotiating, and finally the county came back, I think to our surprise a little bit, and said, okay, what if we pay for the life cycle cost? We'll pay the $5.6 million. So at that point, you can see it becomes a wash over the life of the project. So that's, we think that's a pretty good deal. So going back to this chart, that's where we've got the 7.284 potential cost for the village. That's based on the county's estimated costs, okay? The actual cost will be whatever the bid prices are. We think the prices are going to be a little bit lower than what they show. We think they have some conservative numbers in their water main and in their street lighting numbers. So if the total cost as bid is lower than the 7.2 and the county's paying the first 5.6, the deal becomes even better for the village, right? So all in all, as we're looking at it, we're saying this lowers our upfront costs and allows you to plan for costs over the future. So in doing so, we get to some annualized maintenance costs. If we take those life cycle costs, and we know we've got to maintain the roads and the bridges, we come up with some costs for annual maintenance of the roadway, annual maintenance for the bridge, and then how much you have to put in like a capital reserve for the actual replacement of the road after 50 years and the bridges after 100. So all in all, I think the village was happy with the negotiations and the county's offer, and that's where we're at. So open it up for questions.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Van?
No, just a thank you.
This looks great.
Thank you
Very
for all
good.
the work you,
Wow.
So much.
Chris and Robinson and Dunn, your team.
Thank you. I didn't eat dinner, so that guy before me was killing me.
Well, bring us some back, I'm hungry. So what do you need from us, Dave?
Want me to make a,
Well, there's the IGA's on the agreement, so we should,
just motion?
Perfect.
that to the board agenda.
We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the IGA to the board meeting tonight.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Cindy. Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please.
Roll call for item number 6, trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 7, you guys. Item number 7. Andrew, you gonna take this one, or Dave? You have the shortened version in front of you?
Thank you. Included in your packet was the memo discussed at the committee of the whole, where the board gave direction to move forward with option 1. We have prepared option 1 and the appropriate ordinances that trail the tax levy for the board this evening. Did you want me to go through any more of the detail of that? Do we want to review? I know we had a lengthy discussion last time, and for time's sake, I didn't want to go through it, but I'm happy to if anyone would like me to.
Do you guys need him to review it again, or?
I don't need a review.
All good? Okay. Cindy, Diane?
No, I'm good.
Okay. There you have it.
You want me to go? Do you mind if I make a comment? So Andrew, what if we just took the option 1, or sorry, option 0, and added the 573 for the police officers pension board, and didn't go all the way up to option 1?
So
Or sorry, am I confusing option 1 and 2?
No, you're on par, because option 1 is what is being proposed for the board meeting this evening. And then again, as a review, option 1 would be a total levy of $27,570,532, which is the exact proposed levy that was approved by the board last year. The $537,000 addition would bring that,
I've got 28,139.
yes, it'd bring it to 28,143,532
43, sorry.
is what I have. That's an addition of 573, and that's, I'm doing that math in my head, so I'm very confident in that, but I will grab a calculator and
No.
rework that if we choose to amend it.
You're correct.
But yes, that would be an increase of 2.07% over the tax levy that was approved last year at this time. That would provide the village the ability to have a true operating net zero for next year, for next year's revenues from the property tax levy, because if we did approve this same levy, we would be finding that extra $573,000 out of our general operating levy, which would reduce our revenues moving into FY '22. So that would alleviate some of the pain that we're experiencing in lost revenues already into the next fiscal year.
So we'd be extending the current levy, but only by 573, and we'd be saving the taxpayers 281,000 over option 2.
Correct, yes, we would not be approving that additional amount, so that additional amount would not hit the levy. So I guess we could call this 1B at this
Okay.
point.
So from my perspective, I think that takes the risk out of the increase in the pension for the police officers, but still kind of keeps us fair to the taxpayers as well.
Agree.
What items are on the agenda for this tonight? 9, 10, 11,
Yeah,
12, and
so
13? Do we have 5 of them regarding this?
So trustee Berg, the first one that we approve in the chronological order of this would be the tax levy as the village board intends to have extended through Will and Cook County.
So number 10.
Let me look just to make sure we have the right number there.
And then
Apologize, I don't have my.
the trail
board.
items?
Yes, correct. Number 10 is the tax levy. We would extend that first. That establishes where we go to start our abatement process, and the abatements are 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And each of those have their own kind of individual how and why we do that. The first 3 are related to our ability to reduce them based on other revenue streams that we've collected, so that these amounts don't hit the tax roll, so that we lessen the levy that we're extending by these amounts, because we're gonna fund it out of revenues or other sources that we have on hand. While the item number 14 and 15 are related to incentive agreements with the certain groups for which we've entered into agreements with.
Thank you.
Sorry that's so nebulous, but.
No, it's complicated. So we're just going to keep it number 10? Are we going to maintain these on this, moving these forward here, or just make a motion to, I think the 2 that you guys need to speak to or not? Any other questions on what's going on?
I guess to clarify what has been brought to the table is trustee Mueller is asked what the impact would be of the increase in the police pension amount for this year, which we're responsible for, which is $573,000 more than we were last year. If we kept the levy the same in what option 1 was and what was discussed at the previous cow, that would mean the general fund would have to lessen its revenue, $573,000, because that additional amount would go to the police pension fund directly. That was what originally on the table. If we increase the levy, only the amount that the pension fund is increasing, that $573,000, is the equivalent of increasing the levy 2.07% over the prior year's levy of what was extended, which means everything else would be the same as we did last year, with the exception of the police pension.
Which would come out of the general fund.
Correct, and then the general fund
Okay.
wouldn't have to subsidize that amount for this levy year, correct?
It would just be a hit on that.
It would just, you're right, the 573 that the levy increases would just cover the amount that the police pension's going up. So for every other fund and levy line item, it would be a true zero. Police pension would go up the amount we're actuarially required to increase it by, to cover it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the key to that, trustee Berg, is that the percentage increase is under the 5%, which if you get to that 5% number, then you have to hold a whole nother public hearing.
Yeah,
and
we don't want to
everything
go,
like that,
that's
so
expensive
it
as well.
stays under that
And it
number.
seems like a good solution to me. I don't know what everyone else thinks, though.
I like it. I proposed it. So,
Trustee Brady?
I like your proposal.
Great. Trustee Brennan?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that proposal. I think that makes sense, and it doesn't, require us to dip into our reserves, at least, so.
Yep, Trustee Mueller, I think it was a good, I guess we'll call it a motion, because you're changing it. You're coming up with one B,
What do you think, Diane?
and this way their pensions won't fall behind, it'll be.
correct.
Diane?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good solution.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, so help me out here, Pat.
Yeah, just make the motion to move the levy with the 2.1 percentage, is it 2.1? 2.1 percentage increase
2.07.
for the full board approval.
So I'll make a motion, just like Pat said. Move that to the
To
floor.
move the levy with the 2.0%
What he said.
increase.
Second?
Thank you, Cindy.
Madam Clerk, you call the roll?
Motion, or roll call for item number 7, Trustee Berg,
Yes.
Trustee Brady,
Yes.
Trustee Brennan,
Yes.
Trustee Galante,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Kristen. Is that good, Andrew?
Good to go?
Okay, item number 8, review strategic plan update.
Sure, thank you, trustee Glatz. So, this time of year, is when we do our mid-year budget update, and in preparation for that, we do kind of review of where we're at with our strategic plan. If you remember right, we did develop a new one last year. So I'm going to, and I'm really going to move through this quickly, recognizing the timeframe that we have. And so we can really spend most of our time discussing the next item, which is your budget. But, yeah, so if you remember right, last year we did convene over a couple days, developed a number of goals and strategies. And obviously, some of these have moved forward, some of these because of COVID and our budget crisis have been on relatively hold, and I think will need to be readdressed, but I want to just give you a short update. So we're going to go right to, the first goal really had to do with public safety. And so there was a number of strategies, the main one being focusing on the implementation plan for the police staffing study, as well as promoting technology grants and other resources. So some of the updates in this area, fire department is continuing working on maintaining ISO measurements and fire prevention, retaining the reactivation of bureau operations. Our LPR cameras, the installation, as you know, we've been talking about that for 2 years. Installation finalized, implementation in progress, and we're looking for grant money for reimbursement. Police staffing, and again, we talked about this before, but I think, the board really needs to be congratulated. We've made, I think, significant progress in adding a number of new officers and command staff to the force. If you look at it in summary, since the staffing study of 2 years ago, the village has authorized the following positions: 3 commanders, 2 filled, 1 on hold. We refilled the 10th sergeant position and authorized 8 officers, 3 on hold. And again, I think once we get past, hopefully our COVID-related crisis, we can move forward with filling some of these open positions. So the next goal really had to do with workforce investments, and again, a number of these really have been put on hold. They were, some of the resources that we put in here for implementing these were taking out, were removed from our revised spending plan. But we will, and we also, as you know, we had a change in the HR director position, so our new HR director has already begun to work on a number of these strategies, and next year we should have more to report. So the third one, economic development. I am, as the board is aware, because a lot of this has been on board agendas, I think I'm pleased to say that despite COVID and despite the downturn, there's been a lot of activity in Tinley Park that we've talked about. Some of this economic development relates to regional partnership. We've been working with our partners in Orland Park in Mokina on the Chicago Southland Development Agency. They developed a new website. As you know, we've approved agreements for Tinley Park Plaza. We're seeing construction by Brixmor. There's been a number of new businesses in downtown Tinley that have happened even during the COVID crisis. And of course, we're also right now in discussions with Hobby Lobby in Burlington Shopping Center regarding redevelopment, and Pete's Fresh Market has moved forward with redevelopment plans. We're in discussion with them about a development agreement incentive for that project too. We're continuing to promote the Oak Park Avenue grants. As you know, the grant program we had for out of downtown was refocused towards winterizing number of restaurants, and we've had a number of restaurants that have availed themselves of that. We've worked on reducing our permit processing time, thanks to Mainstar going live in the spring. We're also, as you know, working on a utility plan for 183rd and the Grange to attract new development. And I mentioned earlier, new businesses in downtown, including Avocado Theory and What's Just Food. So another goal that was established by the board was increasing neighborhood and business district stability. So number of strategies here, but again, just in the interest of time, I want to get right to the updates. So code enforcement, we've continued to use ProChamps to register all 4 closed properties. The board recently passed a chronic nuisance ordinance. We mentioned about the redevelopment grant. COVID has obviously impacted us severely through business retentions. We've been increasing our communication with our existing business community, thanks to our new business development director and the marketing department. One of those products is a monthly economic newsletter that's gone out, as well as a number of webinars that have helped businesses through the COVID crisis. And then finally, the last overall goal was increasing community engagement and tourism. So we have, we're going to be resurrecting pop-up village hall concept at events and other community gatherings. We've improved our use of PDF forms for community development online. Sidewalk gap program. We presented a budget. Obviously, we had to make some adjustments due to the COVID-related budget changes. And as you know, the Harmony Square plans are done. Right now, we're just in the process of getting that last piece of property before we move forward. So again, we've had in the village, I think, a number of key positions filled in the last year that I've mentioned earlier. Priscilla's position and the building official, Andrew, and our HR director. So I think we're poised to move forward with a lot of these grants as we work through the situation with COVID. And we will begin to reassess. I think some of these certainly are probably going to have to change as a result of just how our budget has changed and some of our priorities have changed. So we'll be coming back with some additional priorities in the future. So that's that. So any questions, updates, or thoughts?
Any questions, anyone?
I have a question. Just on the LRP cameras, just to understand how are those being used now? Are we using them to pick up the license plates? Are we seeing change, are we solving cases? What's
Yeah.
the status?
I'm sorry, the LPR cameras, have we been able to utilize them at all in cases? What? Have we been able to utilize the cameras in any cases or any?
I have to check with Commander Tens. I know that they're up and running. I know that they have been, responded with people. We have had hits on it when it's, we have had some positive hits. We have had some luck with them. I'll have to check with Commander Tenza to see the follow-up on them, but I know that they've been successful.
Okay, just want to, the first cameras didn't work,
Right.
didn't pick it up. I'm
Right, but
just
these ones, we
curious now that
programmed
these-
them differently. We're
these
trying
are-
to,
these
we
are
got
now-
them to where we want them for stolen vehicles. We got them on the ingress instead of the egress, because most cars are stolen, so we want them coming into town and they'll register that it's
So
stolen,
do
and
they
then we
get
can respond.
alerted?
Pardon me?
Are they alerted? In the past, the 911 center was only using those cameras after the fact. Are they using them now?
Yes, that's what we're doing. We're getting them on ingress now. Before was, if a crime was committed, it was when leaving town. Cars are stolen, they're not, it's not any good to us. What we're doing is we're trying to catch them when they're coming in. It alerts that it's a stolen auto, and then we try to get
And
to that
that's
area to
working
catch
properly now?
them in the act.
Excellent, okay. Thank you.
Okay, Item 9, mid-year budget review. Andrew?
Thank you. Just a few housekeeping items. In my review, I noticed that there were some items that were skewing some of the comparative data moving forward. So slides 2, 3, and 4 were changed. The board was emailed those packets. If anyone from the public or otherwise would like those and they can't pull the information off of the presentation, I'd be happy to provide those. Again, the changes were meant to give a better high-level overview on slide 2, and then 3 and 4, some more useful comparative data as we move forward. So I apologize for that late change, but again, happy to take any questions while we're going through this, or after. Again, this is a high-level overview of the mid-year. If there's any questions or comments regarding line items or more in-depth items, I'm happy to take those questions after the fact and provide that information.
Are you planning on going through the whole thing?
I'm going to buzz through this as effectively as I can.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I mean, the board and the public have had this, seen it since Wednesday. I'd say if you want.
Yeah, then,
It's 8 o'clock
I mean,
if they have-
if the board would
if they have
prefer, I just go over the first 3 slides. Those are kind of the really the high
Nuts and
points.
bolts.
And the rest I can take questions on due to our time constraints, absolutely.
Perfect, thanks. Andrew.
Okay, first slide really tells where we were, where we went, and where we are. Again, we approved a 2021 budget in total of over $150 million of expenditures, offset by $117 million in revenues. Again, the gap between expenditures and revenues is accumulated capital reserve dollars that we would use to make up that deficit there in our spending plan. Again, then COVID hit right after, or right while we were during our budget process. Our new spending plan projected a loss of $14 million in operating revenues, and working with the village department heads and the board, we were able to reduce our current year expenditures by $20.6 million. $6.5 million came out of operating expenditures, while $14.1 million was a reduction of capital. Where we are today at the mid-year as of 10/31/20, expenditures in total for the entire village are $46.9 million, which is 31.2% to budget, while revenues are $60.8 million, which is 51.7% to budget. And this is where I really made that that conscious effort to make this change so that we knew we were talking apples to apples and what's included. The library and the police pension are included in these figures of our mid-year budget actual. However, we do not have access to tap those funds basically under any circumstance to help offset any of our own issues. Again, if you look, the library and accounts for 3.1 million of expenditures to date, while the police pension accounts for $2.3 million of expenses to date. And then the revenue, the library has generated about 4.2 million in revenue, while the police pension has generated $10.5 million in revenue to this point. So again, moving on to slide 2 here. Now this is total budgeted revenues, taking out the library, taking out the police pension. So this is really our bread and butter of the village and what we control and what we do. Our budget for the year is just over 99 million. And to date, we've collected $46.18 million in revenue. So we're about 4% behind where we would like to be. We'd really like to be at that 50% mark. And as you can see in the prior 2-year trends, we were just at about that mark. When you compare this year over year, we've collected $3.2 million less at this point as we did in fiscal year 20 and $6 million in 2019. The key to this slide really is that we've lost $3.2 million collectively across all funds. This isn't pent-up demand. This isn't dollars that we think we're going to recoup at some point. This is truly lost revenue that we're not going to be able to regain. And again, that's at the mid-year point. It should be noted that included in there is a big uptick in motor fuel tax. We received our Rebuild Illinois money, which is to the tune of about $1.3 million. So if we hadn't received the Rebuild Illinois money for MFT, which we did not necessarily account for in the budget process because we knew it was being talked about, but like anything from the state of Illinois, we don't want to count it until we're holding it, we would be down $4.5 million at this point comparatively to last year. And again, these are dollars that we are out. Moving on to the expenditures for fiscal year 2021, our bread and butter operations that the budget controls for all our funds is about just over 116 million. To date, we've spent about 41.5 million, or 35% of our intended budget. That's the new spending plan number. In 2020, to date, we would have spent about 48.7 million, which would have been about 33% of that. So again, a good trend here, and a kudos to the departments that they've done some work to scale back, their spending from what they spent a year ago at this time. But that $7.2 million, more than half of that is related to capital that's been deferred. So we're talking about one-time spends and one-time money, where our revenue losses are operating revenues that support operating expenses. And our operating expenses, as you'll see later in the slide deck, we're about 50%. And again, we cut about $6 million of our operating, our planned operating expenses. But again, we're anticipating we're still going to be down about $14 million when the dust settles for the subsidies that the general fund is going to have to provide other funds who aren't generating the appropriate revenues needed to support those things. And the major ones being the hotel motel fund and the commuter parking lot fund. Those have been severely impacted due to the COVID pandemic. And again, talking about revenues we're never going to see in supporting functions that still have to be operated and to a certain level or a certain degree. With that, I can, again, knowing we're stretched for time here, I'm happy to go further into the presentation or kind of leave it here.
Any questions for anyone from the board?
I have one. So Andrew, the general fund is kind of like our savings account, right?
It's our main operational fund. Our savings.
They're not reserves, is that separate from reserves?
There are reserves within that fund. That's where our unreserved fund balance is held. So yes, it's our operating fund and it's our savings account. They're kind of together.
How long is it going to last, based on our
So
expenditures?
within the presentation, right now, again, knowing we're shut down again and we've seen significant revenue loss and we really don't know what the outcome is going to be. The vaccine conversation's out there, but it's got to get out to the masses before things really open up again. being conservative and fiscally responsible, I think we're headed down a path where we're probably gonna have to use about $5 million of our reserves. Because if everything held where we are right now, comparatively to last year, we made about a $7 to $8 million, and that's the draft audit number, transfer from our operating funds to our capital reserves, because our prior year surplus funds are next year's capital. That's what we made last year. We're on track right now to basically break even and have no money to make a transfer for a capital reserve. And knowing that our operating costs continue to, we continue to have them based on, and where we're projected, we'll probably, and what subsidies will also have to be provided to some of these other funds to provide them the cash flow they need. The thought is we're gonna be about $5 million in the hole, so we'd use about $5 million of our reserves this year. And if we held the new spending plan as our foundation for our budget for FY22, and everything else kind of followed the same path of, you know, revenues being down and things being down, and knowing that there's inflation on contracts that we have, and there's some inflationary pieces to our personnel and benefit costs and other things, will probably be another $6 million down. So at this point, over the next 2 fiscal years, if everything kind of stayed the same, if this is the environment we had to live in for the next 18 months, we'd use about 32% of our reserves over the next 2 fiscal years.
Thank you.
Trustee Glenn, if I could just suggest, I mean, and to wrap it up though, I think there's a page or two that has our specific recommendation on some improvements and some projects that were on hold, that we want to move forward. I think it's about a half dozen.
So as part of our mid-year review, we met with all the major departments and went through what they felt they needed at this point in the year versus what we'd be able to fund. And again, going through what I went through, we don't have a lot of room to bring back on any of the cuts that were involved in the new spending plan, or take on any of the positions or other expenses that we considered in communicating with the departments. And the list is included there within your packet. So again, in the thought of timeliness, the recommendations that we are making are that the police department move forward with e-ticketing, and that was included in the new spending plan to be authorized for the capital expenditure to occur in this fiscal year. So that's not being added back. That was planned, and the police department did a good job deferring that as long as they could, but that's something they need. And then we did a little bit of horse trading with the police department. They are in desperate need of these iRecord cameras and an upgrade to them. There was some other cameras that were approved that they're going to defer until a future fiscal year so that they can do the needed upgrade and purchase for the cameras for investigations. And then lastly, with the civil unrest and the things that we've been experiencing, with not just within our community, but within our area and across our country, they are in need of their field response shields, which were also included in the new spending plan as part of the capital that was approved to move forward with. So again, there's 3 items that they've deferred as long as they can, but brought up and are being recommended to be done for this fiscal year. And then there were 5 positions that we reviewed. The deputy police chief, the assistant records clerk, the assistant public works director, an assistant engineer, and an associate planner that we would like to review again in mid-January. And if it's still deemed as a need, those positions are deemed as needs in mid-January, we would move forward with those as a May 1st of 22 hire, so they would be part of the next year's budget packet, so they wouldn't impact our current budget or spending plan. But again, planning for the next budget year, these are requests that these are human capital requests we would like to consider.
Everyone good? Thank you, Andrew. You and your clicker could take a seat. Or give Dave your clicker. Laura wants the clicker. Item number 10, the push tax. I think, Dave, you're going to take this. I just want to say something real quick. This was brought, after discussion, being brought forward by Finance Chair Trustee Galante. Before you go on, Dave, I just think that this is something that, at this time with the businesses suffering the way they are, the gaming was shut down, what, 2.5,
Mike, I'm
3 months
confused.
earlier?
I didn't ask
I have the-
for this
I
to
have
be
the floor,
brought up.
Diane.
I'm confused why
The-
you're mentioning my name, that I brought this up.
You're in the memo. So,
I had a meeting with
the
the
game-
county.
Diane, I have the floor, please. You'll have your
I'm
chance.
sorry.
And Dave, the gaming was shut down 2.5 months, 3 months prior. Now they're gonna be shut down another month.
This is ridiculous.
I struggle with even discussing this, but go ahead, Dave.
Sure. Yeah, and well, I guess bottom line, this was a placeholder. We had talked, Trustee Lonnie had talked a couple months ago about just putting this on the agenda when we were talking about the mid-year budget. So it's on there. I guess bottom line is, there is litigation out there. There's potentially legislation that's going to be introduced in the next year regarding this. And I think with the pandemic still affecting businesses, I would recommend that we not move forward and again revisit this at some point in the future.
Have you guys spoke recently about this, or last time you spoke about it was mid-year?
No, we had a meeting. I asked for this.
Diane, I'm asking.
Oh, I thought you were asking me. I'm
Dave,
sorry.
No, it's a question to Dave. Have you guys spoke about this recently for this to be, knowing that this is on the agenda, or was it just this is just going back from the mid-year? Was this discussed?
If you're talking about, Trustee Galante, and we've had some meetings with finance.
Okay.
And so I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was back in September we talked about this, right?
I'm saying what it was going on the
Yeah.
agenda for this.
Yes, in fact, there was an email sent out that we were gonna put it on the same agenda
Okay,
as the mid-year
perfect.
budget, so that's,
Okay, so if that's all,
yeah.
Trustee Brady, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I'm good with it. I think it's a great idea not to push for the push tax.
Trustee Brennan?
Yeah, I think, just from conversation here and around, I think that there's could be some other improvements to, additional revenues that we could potentially get in the future. So I think that, holding off on this for right now is the best bet for the business owners.
Thank you. Trustee Mueller?
I'd agree.
Trustee Galante?
Well, just to clear it up, I'm confused why you're mentioning my name on this. I did ask Dave to have a meeting to understand where this was. It was brought to the board sometime back by you, I believe. And it sounded like a really great idea when you brought it up. We are hurting. Our businesses need help. Everybody in this town could use some support. And I believe that we could go, I'm not saying right now. I mean, we had a discussion. I wanted to understand it. And we agreed at the time during that meeting that it was not a good time to bring this up. So I did not ask for it to be on this agenda, just so you're sure.
You have a memo. That's the
Well,
reason I
okay.
mentioned your name. I have the
Okay.
same memo that you have. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I asked to discuss it with them. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to understand what happened to it, because I believe it was Paul O'Grady that brought it to us, and he discussed it in great length, and it sounded like a great idea to me. And I asked for the meeting because I wanted to understand what happened to it. And hopefully in time, when things get back to normal, we will look at a way to bring more of the gaming money to all of our businesses. I mean, we all saw the letters from our businesses that have the gaming that are hurting, and they don't want to give it up. But there's also many businesses that have nothing. They're not getting any help. It was great what we gave them, for the winterizing. That was a help. But hopefully, down the line, we can find a way to get more revenue for this village, either from the state, either from, other ways. There should be more money coming to this village. But not right now. I agree, not right now.
Trustee Berg?
To me, this is a never. I see no point in, putting extra tax on any of our businesses. They were struggling and asking for gaming before the COVID even hit, and then they were shut down. Now, there's plenty of money to go around, and I really don't feel like I need to take this away from, maybe my mom or some seniors that are going up the street to Darla's instead of going farther away. They're, we're right in the neighborhood and can enjoy that aspect of it. So to me, it's a never. I mean, especially now with COVID. I mean, everyone's trying to stay afloat. It's crazy.
Okay. No one else? We will move on to item 11, post 4. John Urbanski, do you want to take that one?
Thank you, sir. This is a request for committee approval to move to the board for a bid that was released for the Post 4 sanitary sewer lift station, which is located at 8399 Brookside Glen Drive. The current control panel and station were installed approximately in 1999 and have seen their life cycle. We are seeing multiple failures and electrical issues with the current station, and do not meet our current standard for installation of lift stations. The original bid, if you recall, was put out back in the spring. It came back approximately $200,000 over our original estimated amount. This was due to some items like bypass pumping and some other amenities that were there for the scope of work was value engineered, and we rebid it for approximately a $50,000 savings of the original bid. Along with that, we had the Post 7 lining project that came in at approximately $700,000 under the budget. So we have a bid from Swallow Construction Corporation at $592,291. And the second bidder, lowest bidder was Aries Incorporated at $598,042. Aries is located in Tinley Park, and based on the local vendor preference and the difference of less than 1% of bid, we are recommending for Aries Incorporated to get the recommendation for the bid, and the offset of the bid of approximately $151,000 to be coming from the other project for the Post 7 lining at a total of $598,042.
Thank you. Any questions? I would much rather use a local company, John, as you put in here as well. If there's no questions, someone want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 12, 2021 regular meeting schedules. I can take it too if you want, doesn't matter. The village board meetings will remain on the same schedule, first and third Tuesdays at 7:30. Committee of the whole is proposed at 7 PM on those same dates. And finally, all the committees are proposed to start at 6:30. Public safety, public works, admin, and legal will be on the first Tuesday of the month. Finance, marketing, community development committees will be on the third Tuesday. So they will be eliminating the second and fourth Tuesday. Any questions for Dave?
Yeah, I just had a question. The April 6th one, I think we've been trying to go away from having meetings, days of elections, just because a lot of people here at Village Hall. I was good with all the rest of the dates, but I think that one we typically cancel. I think we could just.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can cancel that. I was actually gonna bring up another one, because I know last year there was some questions about having a meeting on that first Tuesday after the new year. So if that's something you want to do, or you want to move that, we're fine either way, whether you want to keep it that first Tuesday or not do it or move it back.
Why don't you just leave it, and we could always move it to the 12th if there's not enough for the agenda anyways, right? Yeah,
Well,
just-
I mean, there'll be items for the agenda, it's just.
I mean, for it to be worth it for, for the clerk's office, all the department heads to put stuff together, to come in for 5 items, you could always move it to the 12th if, as things build, or shift it all to the 19th. Okay. So, Mike, you're gonna make a motion to remove the April 6th?
Yeah, do you want me to phrase it that way? So I'll make a motion to move the agenda as set with the removal of the April 6th meetings to the village board,
Of 2021.
2020.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 13, public comment for the special committee of the whole for any of the items listed on the agenda.
Yeah, real quickly. The push tax, that doesn't go to a senior citizen when they're gambling, correct or no?
I can take that.
I thought Trustee Berg mentioned it would go, I don't know, if she mentioned it, it would affect
The push
older
tax,
people?
the push tax, I'm pretty,
No.
I'm pretty familiar with. It's a penny per push, so it's not just seniors, it's a penny per push on the amusement of playing the video game itself.
If I play a video game, am I getting taxed, or the owner of the facility or the gamer? Both,
The
all three?
ultimate- The way, there's multiple ways you could do it. I think a couple of the current iterations right now, the ultimate incidence is on the player. That's not the only way you could do it, but that's one way that it's been written up so far.
Okay, is this implemented in any town so far?
It's implemented in Oak Lawn, it's implemented in Waukegan.
Okay, and then each town differs, the player, the owner of the bar, and the gamer, or?
I only know about Oak Lawn pretty.
And Oak Lawn is?
Intimately. Oak Lawn is the ultimate instance on the player. As a push through, the operators themselves are entitled to pass that on. They don't have to. It's their responsibility to collect it. But it's certainly not on the business, that houses the machines.
Okay, thanks. Wasn't a problem, Trustee Berg, I was just curious,
It's okay,
I
I'm
thought it
almost
was
a
on-
senior.
Pardon me?
I'm almost a senior.
I'm very close to it, thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Laura, did you have someone that wanted to call in?
Yes, we did have somebody call in, and then we had somebody who sent a written that I already emailed to all.
Thank you.
So let me get this. Hi, Sue, this is Laura from the Village of Tinley Park. Hi, you are on the speakerphone and you're in the village board meeting.
Oh, I am now? I think they tabled that.
No, they didn't.
Oh, they didn't? So we're still gonna talk about it?
Well, did you want to make a public comment on it?
I mean,
They
I'd
did,
be glad to.
okay,
Public comment on?
on the push tax.
Oh, okay.
So give me 1 second here and then you can go ahead and start speaking.
What's her name? What's her name?
Let me know when.
Go right ahead.
Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, I just wanted to take a minute, just thank you to the mayor, the clerk, and the board for letting me speak tonight. It's a great honor. We are concerned about this push tax, and I didn't think you were gonna call me because it sounded like it was tabled, but I just did want to say that, last spring when it came up and you were considering it, but ultimately decided to table it, it was really, really much appreciated because of the pandemic and all going on.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sue.
Thank you.
All right, God bless, bye-bye.
Is there, we're all good then, correct? Okay. Anyone else from the public like to address any of the items?
Time for me to talk about anything or no?
No, the regular board, the board meeting, which is, as soon as I close this, we'll open the other one.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded?
Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please?
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Brennan.
Yes.
Trustee Galante.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mueller.
Yes.
Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:24.